How are we doing? Good? You guys, this is the best marketing seminar ever. It's the most epic name for any conference I've ever been to, and I absolutely love it. My name is Quinn Tempest. Yes, that is my real name. I just got married about 6 months ago, and since then I've had some funny reactions to my name, mainly being that I should be a superhero who controls the weather. I wish that were true. I live in Phoenix, and it's still 100 degrees there at the end of October. But I'm so excited to talk with you today. Today is all about SEO. We're going to strip it down, we're going to demystify it, and really break it down into the fundamentals and strategies that you can take right away and use when you get back to the office. So if you didn't know what I look like, this is me on actually a pretty good hair day, although today's not too bad. I am a digital marketing strategist as well as a web designer and graphic designer based in Phoenix, Arizona. And I just ended my tenure actually for 5 years. I was director of marketing at an internet marketing agency where I oversaw all of the inbound marketing efforts, everything we're going to talk about today, especially with the backbone of SEO. And my whole goal was about attracting business through organic efforts, through paid, through social media, through content, and through a holistic strategy that always had a foundation of search engine optimization. So today I've got 45 minutes with you. I've got a lot to cover, and here are the 5 main things that we're going to be talking about. First and foremost, how search works. This is all about how does the search engine crawl information and output the search results that we see so that we as marketers, doctors, team members can take advantage of that. Secondly, how do people use search? We all use it every single day. The term is now a verb to Google it. How can we reverse engineer what people look for and understand that for our own businesses? 3 is the SERPs, which stands for Search Engine Results Pages. That's actually what shows up when we make a query on Google. And that we're going to talk about how do we show up, namely on page 1. Number 4 is the nitty-gritty. We're going to get into real specifics about technical SEO. So these are the fundamentals that you need to have integrated into every single page on your site so that Google and search engines understand what's on there. Because remember, Google's a robot. It's not a human, and we have to make sure that it understands the context of our pages. And lastly, I'm going to impart on you some strategies and tactics that you can take right away to build and attract new patients to your business every single day. Does that sound good? Yeah? All right, so I have a couple questions. There's a lot of people in the room, so raise your hand if you feel pretty darn confident in your SEO and you're already attracting tons of people through your organic efforts. Okay. There were like 5% of you. Second question, how many of you generally understand SEO, but you're not really getting any traction yet from your efforts? Okay, a little bit more. How many of you don't even know what SEO stands for? Don't raise your hand, that's embarrassing. It's search engine optimization. So how do we optimize search engines to make sure our content and our websites are discovered? So let's go ahead and start with the basics. How search works. How do queries show up, and how do the results get produced when we make those queries? And it really comes down to 2 core functions of search engines. The first one is crawling and building an index to display the results that we see, which I'll talk to you more about in a second. Secondly, providing search users with a ranked list of websites they've determined to be the most relevant. So we're going to talk about all the factors that go into that to make sure we can reverse engineer these understandings to benefit our own business. So first and foremost, the core function of a search engine of Google, because I'm just going to say Google, because all of the other search engines really follow their lead. One of the core functions is crawling and indexing. So the best way I can describe how this works is to use an analogy. I am a public transportation nerd, so we're going to go with the London Underground map. We can really use any bus map, any public transportation map, but since I lived in foggy old London town, sorry, that was an awful accent, since I live there, we're going to go with that. So if you've seen the map, There's a lot of little circles, which symbolize stations or stops. And then there are lines that connect those circles, which are all the different routes you can take. So if we're talking about this in the digital space, all those stations and stops are your website, your content, your files, your images. And that is what the little robots that Google sends out scurrying across the web stops at to contextualize and see if it's valuable or not. All of the lines connecting those stations, your website, your content, are, and this is important, so write it down, links. Links are the currency of the internet. The more links you have pointing to your website, the more lines you have coming through your stations, the more votes you have in the popularity contest of the web. So the more votes you have, the more authoritative you look in Google's eyes, the more relevant you look in Google's eyes, and the higher you will rank at the end of the day. We're going to talk about those factors in a second. The second core function that I mentioned was outputting those results in a ranked format. And one of the key things you need to understand at the base level of SEO is that search engines are answer machines. We do it all the time. You probably even Googled how to get to the Georgia Convention Center. I know even yesterday I was being very ambitious about my morning, which nothing ended up happening. I thought I was going to go to yoga, so I looked at yoga studios near Sweet Auburn, which is the neighborhood I'm staying in, and I got results from that. I ended up sleeping in until 9:45, so I didn't make it there. But we're always asking questions. We're looking for solutions. We're looking for answers. And we're looking for someone to provide us that information when we make a search. So what we want to think about as marketers, as doctors, as team members is how can we up-level our impact on the web to be the best answer on the end of someone's search? How can we provide the information they're looking for when they need it in the way they want to consume it right at the time they're looking for it? And what this really comes down to is the algorithm. This is how Google and all search engines work, is an algorithm, which is kind of a crazy thing because it's this mathematical, and some people think it's magical. So if we combine the two, it's a mathematical equation that takes in a lot of different ranking factors in order to output the search results that we see. And every time you and I make a search, it's getting smarter. It's called machine learning. It's kind of that creepy AI stuff. It's getting smarter every time we give it information to feed off of. But what we all need to understand in this room, and this is part of demystifying SEO, is that SEO is different than how it used to be. It's not the same anymore, and it's because of changes to the algorithm. And it comes down to 3 animals: panda, penguin, and hummingbird. Google always names all their algorithm updates after animals. Have any of you heard of these specific updates? Okay, I see a small smattering of hands. So let me go over this, because these are really important to understand old SEO and then how we need to do new SEO to future-proof our website in 2017 and beyond. So first, in 2011, the first major Google algorithm update was Panda. And this was all about tweaking the algorithm to give higher ranking to people providing valuable information and valuable content. And it penalized people and websites who weren't doing that. If you had thin content on your site, like 100 words on 10 different pages, there's no real value, no real information being provided to the end user. So Google actually penalized you back in the day. They said, we're going to take you out of our index, you're not going to get as much traffic, you're not going to get as much business, and it could ultimately hurt you. So Panda was all about increasing the value of information being provided on the web. A year later, we have Penguin. Now, whereas Panda was all about your content on your website, Penguin was all about those manipulative, spammy tactics that many of us used to use to game the system and get higher rankings. And like I mentioned earlier, how important links are, this is what happened with Penguin, is people would buy links from other countries, from payday loan sites, from even porn sites, and those links would be pointing to their website, which if it was a dental website, it was completely irrelevant to the business at hand, depending on how you do business, right? So this was a way to manipulate the sort of search results and get higher rankings. And Google said, no, 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 no. You can't do this anymore. You cannot manipulate the results. So these two updates were the core of how we now have to do SEO. We can't do spammy tactics, and we have to understand what people are looking for online and provide them extreme value when they land on our website. The third one was Hummingbird. Now, whereas Panda and Penguin were these little tweaks, they were these little updates to refine the algorithm, Hummingbird was a complete overhaul of the algorithm itself, and this was in 2013. And why do you think, what was happening, anyone within shouting distance, what was happening in 2013 that you think made Google have to change their algorithm? What was changing with how we all interacted with search? Anyone? Cell phones, I heard it. Mobile. We now had phones on our desks, in our pockets, in our bags. We could actually ask questions to Siri. And our searches became longer. They became more conversational. They became more semantic. They weren't just about a keyword here and there. They were a much more natural language than before. So Google changed the algorithm to be these three things. It was conversational. It was more about those long phrases, those questions, those answers, not just about keywords. It was predictive. We see this every day whenever we Google something, when it starts to pop down those suggestions based on what other people are looking for. It's trying to predict what we want based on what a ton of other people have been looking for. And we're going to talk about how we can use that tool later. And lastly, it is personal. So if I search something and you search something, we're going to get slightly different results, because it's going to look at my search history, it's going to look at where I am in the world, it's going to look at what my search intent is. So all of these three things, Panda, Penguin, Hummingbird, upping the value of information on the web, not doing manipulative tactics, and understanding how people interact with search, this is the new SEO, people. This is where we need to start as a foundation to attract new patients, to level up our business, and to make serious impact.